All right, I hope you're all feeling energized after a not so short tea break. We're going to resume our session and get on to our next fireside chat. The personal finance space has been changing rapidly. Newer products, newer regulation, newer platforms, new intermediaries, newer models even. In all this, some things never change. To go back in time and keep an eye on the future, please join me in welcoming Mr. Deepak Satwalekar, Director at Wipro. Mr. Satwalekar brings over 4 decades of experience in areas including finance, banking, sales and marketing, risk management, operations and cybersecurity, among several others. He has chaired the RBI Committee on Corporate Governance in public sector banks and was a member of several industry and regulatory authority committees, including those of IRDAI and PFRDA. And may I also once again invite on stage Mr. Lovaii Navlakhi, Chairperson of ARIA and MD and CEO of International Money Matters, to take this conversation forward. Gentlemen, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and it's such a pleasure to be with Mr. Satwalekar. I know she formally introduced him with his role, etc., but he was my project guide in my MBA. And luckily, we were a class of 5 people, so he would say, we'll meet at home for the project guidance. And over the years, I think has also been very helpful in many questions that I've had. He never gives the answer. He keeps asking you some questions, then you get your own answer, So I hope today you will answer some of the questions I ask you. So to start off with, I think you spent a very, very long time or almost all your working life with one organization. I mean, it happened to be 2 because there was a opening, I suppose. But what made you, A, join that, and what made you stay on?
This is a tough question because it goes back many, many years. But I think it's important for each person to realize what he or she wants in life, okay? I had done my MBA in the US and I came back in 1978 and I joined Citibank, which at that point in time was a prime employer. 6 weeks later, I quit Citibank, okay? Because what they did was they gave me a manual of 1,000 pages and said, read it and we'll discuss at the end of the month, okay? Now these were the rules of banking, the rules of operations of the bank. And I said I didn't do all these the studies and everything to go and read up books and about rules and regulations. I don't want to read the regulations, I want to write the rules. I want to write the process. And so I joined HDFC, which had just started. They had a blank piece of paper. I think they had made their first disbursement when I joined. And I think it's been just that. I mean, I think the main reason for not changing jobs is because I didn't want to write my CV again. It had, and I think once I had conned one person into giving me a job, I didn't want to try my luck again to see if I could convince someone else. But it's, actually everyone asks me this question, I mean, how did you spend so many years in one entity? I think if you think back as to why do you move on, it's because you feel you're underappreciated, because you feel you're under challenged, because you want to do something different, or you just want to get paid more, okay? For me, I don't think I did the same thing for more than a month in the 30 years that I was there in that group. Every month there was something new happening. you are either doing a different thing or you are doing things differently. And I think, frankly, I think luckily I joined HDFC at a time when the industry did not exist. And we helped create that industry. We helped the regulations coming up. In fact, it was in the HDFC offices that the first draft of the NHB Act was drafted. Not that they accepted everything we said, but I think that's where it is. The excitement comes in from being a part of a journey for creating something. That's when you get a sense of accomplishment. So I think the excitement was there. And for me, I think for me, I've got to learn something every day. And while I'm doing that, I've got to have fun. These are two things which are the cornerstones of my existence. I have to learn and I have to have fun. If I don't, I'm gone. And I didn't have to go for 30 years. Okay.
But I'm sure there would have been some occasions when you had doubts, no?
Doubts?
About being there.
Not really. If you look at it, all the things that, I think in that sense, in a way, I'm grateful to the British. Everybody criticizes the British now, okay? The British have a concept called the Building Society, which is the name for a housing finance company. And they set this up in every country that they colonized, except in South Asia. So in India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and in Bangladesh now, there isn't or was not a building society and no housing finance company, which gave us the opportunity to create something, out of nothing. And it's not something new. Our chairman, H.D. Parekh, had done his articles and his CA in London and had come back and saying, why can't we have a similar thing here? And everybody would tell him, bhai, that housing thing, now leave it for the government. It's not for private sector. Until finally, I think in 1977, I think the IFC, Washington, ICICI, and His Royal Highness, the Aga Khan, joined hands with 5% each and helped set up HDFC. So it's a huge, with that legacy and creating something new all the time, you really don't want to miss out.
So as RIAs and finance professionals in the field we are, while it's been 10 years, 12 years since the regulation, it's still very nascent and new. Are there things you see that you picked up and followed is something that we can use and implement?
I think the biggest thing is, and I heard this in the morning when I think Mr. Anant Narayan was talking and then the panel discussion, I think the key thing here is the customer, okay? I think if you just keep your ears open, you don't need to do market surveys. They will give you the feedback. When they're complaining to you, it's not a complaint. Take it as a feedback for what you can do to improve, okay? You can all, I've seen so many CEOs and say, "मैं तो complaint department को भेज देता हूँ." I say, "भाई, any serious complaint, I want to listen to it." I would go to the front desk and sit with them to understand why they were complaining. Was it a process that we had? Was it a rule that we had? Was it necessary? I think there's so much learning. So I think your desire to learn is important. And I think I'm not unique. I'll give you an example of this. Sometimes you think that large organizations don't have people who learn. At HDFC, we had our loan approvals department on the ground floor in the building. And one morning when I came in early, there was a gentleman sitting there in a suit and everything. And I walked past to the lift, and then I came back saying, "Hey, I think I recognize him." This was Mr. P.G. Kakodkar, at that point in time, the chairman of State Bank of India, okay? I went up to him and I said, "So what are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I need a loan for my son who's building a house in Goa." And I said, "All you had to do was to pick up the phone and I would have had somebody come and talk to you." He said, "No, I've heard that HDFC has great customer service and has great processes. I want to experience that. Now, that's the learning and that's the humility of a chairman of the largest bank in the country. He's willing to sit out there in the reception before the office opens. I mean, I think with those type of role models, there's
Yeah, I think you really get fortunate in life if you come across and meet such role models.
It's not only Kakotkar. I mean, every customer you meet, there's something learning because, I mean, someone said in the morning, every customer is different, which is absolutely true. I mean, the needs of every customer are different, and the needs of the same customer at different points in time are different. If you are only willing to listen rather than talk, so it's nowadays that I do a lot of talking, okay? Because in the old days, I did a lot of listening. And I think that is the key. I mean, when people talk about what is the driving force for you, what can the industry learn, 13 years in the life of an industry is nothing. Is nothing. You will keep changing, you will keep reinventing, and with the pace at which things are growing and changing, your requirements for reinventing yourself will happen all the time. You will need to reinvent yourself if you have to remain relevant for your customer, your client, or whatever you call them. I think that is, the key. Focus one thing only. It's the customer. It's not about me. It's not I. It's about you. And I think that's what will drive success for you.
So, since you mentioned about complaint, I must share this anecdote. I don't know whether you remember this, but I became an agent of HDFC Life. When I had choices, I said, oh, at least here I know the CEO, so if I have a problem, I can go and complain, and get something resolved. So I was in Bangalore and I happened to visit HDFC Mumbai, and I was getting some things resolved, and sir saw me and he said, so how are things going? I said, okay, everything is fine, but I think he says, something's not okay. I said, some minor problems, I'll get it resolved. And you used these words and you said, I am your chief complaint officer. You sit with me and tell me each and every complaint. So there were 6, 7 complaints or issues, I think. And I got an email back from him about a week later. The first line of the email said that I'm extremely sorry that I've taken time to respond to these complaints. And here are, my findings. You remember any of this? I'm sure you did it with many people.
I think I may not remember having it for you, but I've done this before. Because for me, what is important is that this happened possibly in the year 2000, 2001, 2002. Possibly.
Maybe 3, I think. 2, 3, yeah,
okay.
Early on.
Today we are in 2025.
Yeah.
Obviously, it made a big impact on you, a big impression, because it mattered to you.
Yeah.
I think that's what is important. What matters to the person across the table? And I think now I realize that even today now at home, I'll have a home office, but my desk is a circular desk. So that there is no question of you being on the other side and me being on this side. We're all on the same side, okay? I think just put yourself in that person's shoes. As far as in your line of business, if you look at it, the investment horizon or the investment options are so complex today. Try to get that person to understand and appreciate what you're saying. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to impress their clients by using jargon, okay? Now, the objective of communication is not impressing someone, but that other person hears you and understands you. And I learned this thing from no less a person than Sri H.D. Parekh, the doyen of the Indian financial sector. He did not use words more than 2 or 3 syllables. No fancy language. He said, the reason I write and read or talk is because the other person must understand. And I think that is key. put yourself in the other person's shoes and then try and explain it. You know it, so you will take time to figure it out very quickly. For them, it's tough. It's very difficult to try and understand all the complexities that you're talking about. And then if you start thinking, this is a waste of my time, kitna time leta hai, I could have gone to another client. Wrong. One of the main things you need to have is patience. You need to be able to put yourself in that person's shoes, to be able to be patient, and then he will hear you. And he hears you, he will learn. And once he is married to you, he will not go. He will not go. But if he doesn't feel comfortable with you, there's the next ARIA available. Remember that.
Let me switch a bit to the life insurance piece. I mean, you moved from HDFC to help set up HDFC life insurance, and it was again nascent. Regulation just came in, I think 2000, 2001, 2000 on privatization. So what was your role? I mean, I'm sure organization thought that that's a great place to be, but did you influence it? What made you take that up? Or you were forced to it?
What made you take that? Actually, the first thought of life insurance came up in 1991. And gratitude to Dr. Manmohan Singh, when the whole economic liberalization and the financial sector liberalization happened. And I remember in 1991, end of the year, November, December, I prepared a 2-page note for my chairman as to what are the things that HDFC should do. Okay? Now that we have the full landscape available to us. And there was a mutual fund, a bank, a life insurance company, a general insurance company, a real estate investment trust, property broking. I mean, the whole list of things. And I think, I mean, other than property broking, I think we've just about done everything. I mean, Navneet is here running HDFC Mutual Fund. I think it's not impossible. So I think just being able to visualize, and that's how I got involved in it. What did I know about insurance? I think in my first job, I think in 1972, my boss was a part-time insurance agent of LIC, which is what all of the LIC agents were. So he comes up to me one day, having seen how much he was paying me, 600 rupees a month. He said, "ठीक है, 50,000 की policy ले लो." I said, "Yes, sir." I didn't know what the hell a policy was. I didn't know what 50,000 was. I'd never seen that many zeros in my life. And I took it. Okay? But after that, from 1991, 94, I think 95, we really started talking about insurance. There were conferences, and I could very confidently go up and speak about life insurance because I didn't know anything about it. Okay? It's only later on when I learned about life insurance that I found it very difficult to speak. Because then you know how much you don't know, and then it's tougher. But I think that journey, you asked me, why did I go to life insurance? And that was the question that Keshav Mahindra asked me. Because I was the MD at HDFC, and he was our vice chairman. So I had gone to him to tell him, I'm moving on, sir, I want to go there. I said, why do you want to do it? You're the managing director of the largest housing finance company in the country. Why do you want to go there? So I said, I just want to see whether I can create something which H.T. Parekh and Deepak Parekh have done. Can I replicate and create another entity with similar values and similar processes? And he says, okay, if that's what you want, go ahead. I think it's a challenge. I think it's really, and it's taken me time, okay, because I always believed I was a risk-averse person. And I found out that I wasn't a risk-averse person only when I interviewed somebody else. And this was for his move up in one of the other companies. And he'd given me his CV, and then he was speaking. And I said, either you're lying now, or you lied in your CV. So he was shocked. He said, no, sir. I said, everything you said in your CV says that you're risk averse. Everything that you have done is risk prone. Okay, so you make up your mind. And I was very happy with the questioning I did. And then sitting in the car going home, I said, let me reflect on my life. Okay, I left Citibank to join HDFC, which was not a known entity in an unknown sector. Then I left HDFC to join the life insurance company. And even well before that, instead of joining Larsen and Toubro, I joined a company which was a small little thing. So I said, maybe I'm not as risk averse as I think I am. And I think that's when I realized that I think risk means different things to different people at different points in time. And I think that is important. I think in the morning there was a lot of talk about, it's so easy to talk about returns, and investors will ask you about kya return doge. I think we just need to change the focus to talking about risk-weighted returns. Don't let it be just plain returns. It's part of the education. Let them talk and ask the same questions that you would ask yourself. What is the risk-weighted return? Don't talk about returns and risks as two separate things. They are one. And I think I think I just want to have a ball all the time. And if somebody else is going to keep paying me a salary, hey, why not?
In fact, I have a friend, when I started off this company 23 years ago, he said, I always knew you were going to start something of your own. I said, what are you saying? I mean, I've worked for 18 years, different corporates. So, I mean, I've never thought. In fact, I almost did this out of force when I did, because there were no jobs in 2001. And he said, okay, so tell me your last job, .com. Before that, financial services. Before that, networking services. All new companies, you were just sitting under an umbrella. So you were always taking risks. And, exactly the same thing I got back, but from someone who knew me from earlier. So sometimes we don't see it ourselves. So how do you keep yourself busy now?
Oh, I think I've earned a little downtime now, okay? So I've reduced my corporate engagements down to just 2 boards. I think one was mentioned, Wipro, and the other one is, I think my first love continues, so I've joined a smallish affordable housing finance company board, and I chair that. So those are the 2 my corporate engagements. I spent quite a bit of time with not-for-profits in the primary education field in both urban and rural India. Then I read a lot, and I also paint. So
Paint?
Paint.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
both my father and my grandfather were artists. Okay, so there is some genetic thing which has come through, but it was dormant until I retired. So I'm having fun.
Nice. So when you say that you're, doing something of passion and you're working with NGOs, etc., is there anything you see that from that experience, is that something that we could take and do? Is there something that's missing because it happens to be in back of beyond or socially deprived?
There's nothing back of beyond. Okay? If you start off life expecting something which is relevant to you, you will be going around in the same circles. I think broaden the horizon. You can learn from anyone. And I found this out with this not-for-profit. I mean, I think the one thing I've also realized working in this sector, I mean, being associated with this sector, is that the ego of a NGO chief is bigger than the ego of the largest corporate in India. Okay? Because they have discovered how to teach. They've discovered how to supply water. They've discovered how to do this and how to do that. They cannot learn. But then I've come across a couple of them. And I think the one that I'm working with in your city, because again, everybody believes that having worked in the 2 large entities, so they come to me and say, so how can we scale? Okay, that's a standard question which they come. And I said, to my mind, I think scale is about the idea, the concept. You need to scale that. You don't need to scale your organization, okay? Don't scale your organization, scale the concept. And I think, let me just digress for a minute on in HDFC. We knew that the problem was huge and the HDFC itself could never ever do it. But what we wanted was an institutionalized structure for housing finance so that we don't get fly-by-night operators. Because unfortunately, the financial sector attracts the best and the worst of humanity, okay? And they will take you through the muck and the mud and tarnish. But HDFC helped Canara Bank and State Bank of India to set up their housing finance companies. Our processes, our documents, everything was given to them because we said we need large institutions which will create this thing. And I think this is what this guy has done. He says, I can work with the secretary, I can work with the deputy secretary, I can work with the district education officers, the taluka officers, everything. The end, I want to work with the local NGO which will deliver to the children in the school. And so, last year at Davos, they got an award. They had instituted a new award for collaborative frameworks in the not-for-profit sector, and they were the first winners. This year in Harvard, I mean, he just texted me last night saying, I'm here in Harvard for a leadership course for 1 week. The case that they're studying is this collaborative model. That's the case study at Harvard. So I think once you believe that there's a lot to learn from outside, life is very easy. Then you don't need to waste your time trying to pick up things. Just keep your ears open. Just keep your ears open and you'll learn. And the most you will learn will be from your clients. The clients will ask you, why? Why not this? Why this? And I think it'll help you in how you communicate that idea. It's best to communicate in the language that they want, whether it is a vernacular or whatever. Use short, small words which they can understand. You're not going to be addressing an audience like this, which can understand jargon. You're talking to an ordinary person. Talk to him in his language or her language.
That's great. I mean, I'm going back to the collaborative piece where you said that HDFC actually gave processes to a couple of other technically competitors. You actually created competitors. I'm just thinking that, as a community, then there is so much work that we can do collaboratively rather than say, this is my fiefdom, I'm competing with you, this is your client, my client.
Why you think that you guys are competing with each other? I mean, I think their numbers have been thrown in the morning as to how big the savings market is. I think, you talked about some numbers also. How much have you touched? And how many of you are there altogether? 1,000 plus? 1,400 odd? Okay. And that too, a huge concentration in the West and the South. Are you saying that people in the North are not making money or that they're brilliant and they know how to save and how to do investments? No. It's just that you ignored them. Are you saying that the money is made only in tier 1 towns? Wrong. Because if you look at it, even the mutual fund industry, where you talked about T30 and T30 plus and all, there's much more selling happening out there than in the bigger cities. Because bigger cities, again, suffer from too many options. The smaller towns, when you go there, you're just one who's come and they're grateful that you come to them. So, I think there's so much to learn from each other. Each of you would have had different experiences. And learning from each other doesn't cost. Now, if you had a client in Mumbai and then that person got moved out somewhere, yes, you can do long-term, long distance also. But if you've got a partner out there, a person you trust, they can handle it from there. So collaborating it's unlike what the US president believes, it's not a zero-sum game, okay? Collaboration is a 1 plus 1 is equal to 11, okay? Just remember that. Collaboration will lead to your growth, industry growth, your partner's growth. Don't ever forget that, please. Besides, never forgetting the customer is why you exist. Okay?
So I don't know if there are going to be questions from the audience, and please think of them and raise your hand at that point. I have a couple of questions to ask, which are around the theme of the conference, number one, and two, the topic that we chose, the title of the topic. So one on the theme, this piece of financial plan for every Indian.
I think it's an extremely ambitious plan, or extremely ambitious title. And this resonates very similar to one of the NGOs I work with, which said that every Indian child will have a top education. Nice statement. The next question is how? How are you going to do it? So I think without getting into details, I think it's saying, I think the ARIA can say every Indian must have this. And when you go back home, each of you has to figure it out as to what will I do to make that happen? What is my plan for the year? What is my plan for the quarter? What is my plan for the month? What's my plan for the week? What's my plan for tomorrow? And then at the end of the day tomorrow, you sit back and see, this is what I planned and this is what I didn't do. Now, don't pat yourself for what you did, but try and understand why you didn't do all the things that you were supposed to do. So I think it's important. But these are minor ways of operating which have helped me just break everything down to the lowest level and then solve it. But the bigger thing that you're talking of, everyone talks about investment advice or financial planning. I think what you're doing is planning for financial security. I think that is important. Planning for financial security is important. And I think for that, what you need to be aware is not all the mutual fund products and the banking products and the insurance products and all of that. You just need to be aware of where society is moving, where India as a people, we are moving. Because what, in 2022, 10.5% of Indians were the age of 60 and above. In 2050, that's going to be about 21%, doubling. Okay? Now, I think there was reference made to, do I have enough savings to manage this thing? Life expectancy is going up, but the only thing which is going up faster than that is expectations from life. Okay? In the old days, if you had asked my parents or my grandparents, they would say, "ठीक है, retire हो गए, घर पे बैठेंगे, आराम, बच्चे संभालेंगे." Today, I want to go with my grandchildren to Disneyland. I want to go traveling to Ukraine. I want to go no, not Ukraine, some other place. But you want to do things which possibly in your youth you didn't do. None of it comes cheap. Okay? So you got to have that. In the old days, you always said कि ठीक है, लड़का हो जाएगा, लड़की हो गई, retire होके उनके साथ रहेंगे. See, everybody is not as lucky as HDFC, okay, which went and retired into its child in HDFC Bank, okay. So most people will not be able to do that because the children have their own life, and you wouldn't after the first week want to be there because their lifestyles are different, your lifestyles are. So financial security planning is key. Now you can sit and argue about the word planning and advising and all that. That's not for me. That's between you and your regulators. But whatever you call it, you have to get them to start thinking of the long term. See, long term is the key. So avoid all the noise which you hear, market upar gaya, market niche gaya. Can you do anything about it? Nothing, no? You can only read about it and hear about it and suffer. But if you make sure that you plan for the long and you convince your clients that that's what matters. See, I've got in a way affected by all the businesses that have been long term. You give a 20 or 25-year housing loan, you give a 20-year life insurance policy. So I don't even think of quarters. When you talk of quarterly return kya hai, I don't even know what the concept is. And I think that's what matters. I think, how do you get your clients to understand the nature of what you're talking to them? It's long term, it's financial security, It is their security, not the children. I mean, yes, as good Indian parents, we will look after the children, we'll do all of this thing. But remember, after that, you have to look after yourself. Some point, and I think Navneet made that point कि वो 50 साल की हो गई उम्र, अब discovery हो गई कि अब तो भाई my PPFN is not going to help me enjoy or do anything. It won't even pay for your hospital bill when you go there, because the hospital costs have escalated. So I think of all these things and put yourself in your client's shoes and then do it. Okay? The opportunity is tremendous. The opportunity is huge. If Indian industry does what it says it will do in terms of growth, if we grow to become the third largest and so on and so forth economy in the world, somewhere that money has to go. Okay? And who's going to manage that? You've got to help them. So the client has to feel extremely comfortable and confident with you. And how do you build that up? Over a period of time. You invest your time. And I've got a superb example on this thing where, I mean, he said he joined HDFC Life Insurance as an agent. We didn't want to demean people, so we always called them financial consultants. We didn't call them agents.
Yeah, okay? Financial, I forgot about
now,
that.
of course, SEBI will not permit us to call them financial consultants. That's a different issue. But I'll leave that for the two regulators to fight, okay? What they can call. But one person came to me and said, Kiwi, I'm now becoming your consultant. So I asked him, what have you been doing? He said, I was a banker. I said, I just assumed that he was some branch manager somewhere. So I said, life is great for you. You know all the database of all your customers. So they no, sir, I was at the teller. He was a teller. Today, he has 4,000 clients. 2,000 of them from those years. He started with us in the year 2000. Okay? In the 25 years, the first year I think he didn't get it, 24 years he has been an MDRT agent. That's $1 million round table. In 15 years, he's been the court of table member, which is the next higher level. And in 5 years, he's been at top of the table, which is the global top. It's just passion, it's just dedication, it's just all-consuming drive to serve that customer. That's the only thing which matters. If you want to learn new things, it's because you want to help your customer, not because you want to enhance your knowledge. So keep that customer in front. That's all.
So I think you've covered it in various ways in the responses you gave
So
to
what I
earlier
told you, I'll go rambling all over the place.
Yeah,
Okay?
but it's just good to talk about the title of this session, which was Some Things Never Change. So are there some things at top of your mind which should never change?
Some things never change. I think one is that he still talks to me, okay, from those 25 years back. So I think that has not changed. But I think what doesn't change is, I think, personal integrity, your customer focus, a passion for wanting to do something good, and not keeping yourself in the forefront. Try and stay at the back. Though humility. If you don't know something, don't be afraid to say so. Someone will give you an answer, you will learn. So he did mention, he said, I'm going to ask you some questions which maybe not, I said, that's fine, I'll just say I don't know. I mean, I think I go back to a friend of mine who used to teach children in the preschool age group. And she taught them numbers. And then she asked one kid, saying, okay, recite the numbers from 11 to 20. So he said, Miss, I know from 1 to 10. You want to hear? I will tell you. Okay? Now, that honesty, for me, I mean, this is something I heard 25 years back. But I remember it, because I think that kid was honest. He said, I don't know that, but if you want, I can do it. I think people in our category now What they will do is they'll give you the same answer, but without admitting that they don't know. They'll twist the whole thing around and give you the same answer. Okay? I think that's not important. Admit. But core values do not change. Whether it is 1977, whether it is 2000, whether it's 2025, whether it's 2050. Externally, you may feel that people are doing things wrong, they're doing shortcuts. Leave it to them. They will suffer. You don't take them. Don't take them.
Thank you. It's been wonderful having a chat with you. And I know that there were times in our conversation you said, "Do you really want me? You can drop me, it's fine," all of that. And thank you for accommodating change in schedule and all of that. So it's been wonderful chatting with you. I just don't want to be selfish, but we are really short of time. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Easy question
there are a
only.
few. Two questions. I can see two hands up. We will take the two questions and then stop.
Hello, sirs. The question is related to something around our profession, but largely about, with the advent of technology, everything moving more quickly, and we are talking about, how to make clients realize about life security in the long term. But as you know, it's a relatively young country, a lot of investors coming in which are young, and as would always happen, but without doubt, the data also has exponentially, increased in last couple of decades and things like that. So basically, we are moving more and more quickly, maybe exponentially, but we have to make clients, think for the long term, for their own benefit, try to get that embedded in their life. So basis your experience, what would you suggest few things, which could help us better to practically or succinctly help that ingrain in our practice for our clients is my question. Thanks.
I think that's possibly you are at a disadvantage because you're significantly younger than me. Because as Lovaii said, I have never answered any of his questions. He's been coming to me and asking me a question of what do I do, how do I do, and he said the only thing he got back from me was one more question. Okay? But the idea is that whenever you are in doubt, don't come to me. Figure it out, think it through. So I think the question that I ask is going to help you to think that through. So that the next time around, you don't need to come to me. You do it by yourself. The other reason is because I have been extremely uncomfortable giving people advice, okay? And telling them what to do. And that's why a lot of people come and ask, they say, "Sir, will you mentor me?" I say, "Ek to mujhe samajh mein nahi aata what mentoring is. But even if I understood, I don't think I'll be able to tell you what to do. Because your circumstances are different from my circumstances. But what I can do is I can share with you, when I had a similar situation as you have, what did I do? Okay? I can share that with you from my experiences. Not just my experiences, but because I do spend a lot of time reading other experiences from others. I can't experience everything, but I can get it secondhand from somewhere else. So the key for getting any message across, I've found, is storytelling. Don't give gyan, don't give lectures. People switch off in the first 15 seconds, okay? But you tell a story, they'll remember that story. Then when they remember that story, they'll relate it to what you said at that time. And then in the circumstances in which they are, they'll say, maybe this makes sense to me. It's not a 100-meter dash. It's a long race. As they say, lambe race ka ghoda hai. You've chosen to get into that line of business. Now you just make sure that you stay there. Please don't take shortcuts. Please avoid the noise. Wait for the symphony which is playing in the background, okay? And there is a symphony. As long as we have people like this performing here, we'll have that. But only one grouse with this whole conference is that part of financial security is also insurance. Insurance ki koi baat hi nahi karta except in a derogatory manner.
Which is why we invited you. Yeah, Harsh.
I can't answer your questions, Harsh. I only read your articles in the paper. Okay?
And keep the question short, okay? Yeah.
This is a real honor to be able to talk to you. And I remember him at a book launch, and people were saying extremely good things about him. So the only response that Mr. Satwalekar gave is, I wish somebody would go and tell all these things to my wife. Okay, and I can remember that, and I relate to that very, very much. But sir, the question, and you just mentioned that people talk about insurance in a derogatory manner. And I think, okay, and with all due respects to, I think the insurance industry missed a big trick. It's still missing the big trick. It is never concentrated on what was the main thing, protection. It itself never concentrated on it. It was only after the investment pie. And that is true. I mean, the sabse pehle insurance makes sense. Okay, that campaign makes sense. Insurance comes before investment, right? But what insurance? I think the advertisement never clarified that. Now that you're no longer part of the industry, do you think insurance industry missed a trick? Clearly missed a trick. Today, people who are insurance consultants, agents, whatever, okay, they are embarrassed to call themselves insurance agents. And I think part of that is to do with the way the industry has always looked at investments rather than protection. Would really appreciate your comment. It was meant in the way that it was stated.
No. I mean, I think in a way you're right. I think we missed the trick. I think with all humility, I must say that we had been very late in the ULIP space because we didn't believe that that was our space to be in. But I think in recent times, I think the last 5 years or so, I think the focus of at least HDFC Life Insurance has been on protection. So they have moved significantly to protection. But I think it's not the only thing. I think the reason why investment became a big thing was, again, short-termism. Growth, I have to show growth. And therefore, that's what counted. And I think we did miss the trick there. But I think that's not the only thing. There is growth and there is investment. In India, I think there was a partial regulatory misstep because we at HDFC Life didn't want to set up an investment department. Okay, we said in the group we have HDFC Mutual Fund. Why can't they manage the investments for us? We'll do the front end, we'll do the servicing, but let them manage they're experts in that. They said, no, this is a core activity of insurance, you cannot outsource. And that's when the whole thing went into how do you show growth, how do you show returns, and all of those things. Unfortunate, but I think if we had stuck to just protection, and I think there's a huge need for that. But that also leads to the fact that I think, why is insurance important? Because, I mean, end of the day, I mean, what do we insure? We insure the life of the bread earner. Now, if there is an unfortunate event and the bread earner is not around, I don't think we can take care of the emotional loss that they have. But if at least we can prevent the financial hardships, that's, I think, the role of insurance. And I think that's what we should do. Now, it sounds like an old man who is out of the industry giving gyan, but I think it's honestly, that's the way it is.
Thank you so very much. And I think we would have certainly missed a trick and many more if we had not had you here today. So thank you for coming over, your time, and the wonderful wisdom that you imparted. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.